Welcome back to the Upper Tier podcast, the football podcast we bring you each and every day now on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button to get the latest content. You'll also find us on Anchor, Spotify, Podbean, if you prefer the audio versions for your leisurely pandemic exercise. Not a problem at all. We have that there for you as well. And as always, this is your Monday mashup show with the panel joining me again. We're going to have a quick rundown through the Premier results, and we're going to have a quick look at the European situation. And then we're going to get into some hot topics tonight, some interesting stuff developed in the last week or so. So joining me as always, Anthony, how you doing, my man?
What's up, Noel? How are you, lads?
Good. Craig, how you doing?
Right, no, that's story. All right, lads.
Good. How are you, Grahamo?
I'll go tonight.
Not sure whether I should start with you tonight or not. Licking the wounds, I'd imagine. Darren, how we doing?
How you getting on, pal? All good, buddy, yeah? How are you, lads?
Looking fresh. That's all I'm saying.
COVID Cuts, baby. Sponsored by COVID Cuts.
Nice. So as always, the show is sponsored by Ellis Toys and Collectibles over on Facebook. Head over there and they'll sort you out with some discounts. Also sponsored by Hogan Elite Trophy Hire. So if you need that silverware for that special occasion, head over to Mark. He'll also look after you with a discount and stuff like that if you have anything to be planned in the future. Obviously not now. But yeah, so let's get into it, lads. An interesting weekend of Premier League fixtures and results. Leeds and Chelsea, 0-0. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. Darren, what was you thinking on that?
I actually I expected quite a few goals. I had Werner in my fantasy football team, and just before the game, or the fantasy were due in, I thought, well, I captain them. Not sure. Geez, they could have a bag full there today against Leeds. Watching the comments come through, I was like, Jesus Christ, it's going to end up 0-0. Can't believe it, man. And Leeds have been so poor at the back. Now, I know Chelsea haven't been an amazing force going forward, but I definitely thought there'd be goals. And it was a shocker for me, I have to tell you.
It's been a long time since Timo Werner got a bag load of anything at this stage. You know what I mean? Like he's, if he doesn't get his skates on soon with Tuchel, he's going to look like a busted flush.
The performances have got better from him recently, but he still hasn't got the goals yet, you know?
Yeah, he badly needs a good run of goals, doesn't he, really, to get him going, you know? There's no doubt the quality's there, but it's just, I think as it's mentally getting to him, the adjustment, really, you know? Where do we start then? Craig, we'll start with you being the Liverpool man on Everton and Burnley.
Yeah,
Everton 2-1.
I was checking the L scoreline, and at Goodison, I didn't really give Burnley a chance, to be honest. You know, Everton probably getting a bit more confidence under Ancelotti and how the results are going around them, especially the results against us they had as well. So I had it as a foregone conclusion that it wouldn't probably be easy for them, but they would still get the win. And I think it was the first half, they were 2-1 down. I was like, Jesus, you know, Burnley putting it up to them. You know, not like Burnley to kind of go away, grab 2 goals, especially in the first half of the game either. And they never seemed to recover from it either. You know, it kind of just stood that way it was. Burnley are very resolute, very hard to break down when you give them a lead. And it does make for interesting times. It's like the teams all around there kind of seem to pull it out of the bag when it's most needed. Like, but it's, if we're looking at it from your perspective, like, you know, it's a bonus result. Like, I did not see on paper I would have had everything in any accumulator I probably would have had. You know what I mean?
It's some result for Burnley, isn't it? Because they're after beating Everton at Goodison, they're after beating Liverpool and Anfield.
It's like the points that they should be scrapping for between themselves with other teams. They can't seem to get around it, but when they have a big occasion, they seem to like forget about everything and let the shackles off a bit more. Especially like 2 goals at Goodison is, you know, for anyone it's pretty good. Like,
yeah. Obviously Man City and Fulham. I mean, Man City winning 3-0. I mean, I don't think that was ever in doubt. I don't think that was ever in doubt. I mean, I know they struggled at first, but in reality,
yeah, no, they looked frustrated in the first half against Fulham, all right. But Fulham are a decent team. Like, fair enough, they're struggling to find a form that they need to survive in the Premier League at the moment. But eventually, it was going to be a foregone conclusion with City steamrolling. What was it, 3-0? 3-1? Was it 3-0?
Yeah, finished 3-0, yeah.
Yeah, so it was never in doubt it was going to be a City win. Frustrating first half of them, but it was never in doubt in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we move on to Leicester and Sheffield United. This was such a such a weird game. I mean, there was nothing going on for Leicester at all. They were struggling big time. One or two kind of half chances. Vardy was struggling. And the next thing they turn on the afterburners and it's like 5-0 out of nowhere. Like, you know what I mean? Just took off. And I think once Sheffield United has conceded one or two goals, that was it. They just disintegrated, really, you know what I mean? And it's looking ominous and then now, especially with Chris Wilder leaving this week. That's not good. I mean, he's Sheffield United through and through, you know what I mean? Not that they had any chance of coming out, but I think if they hung on to him, they might have had a better chance next season of coming potentially back up. You know, with him gone, I mean, the assistant stepped in there, and I mean, it was pretty much more of the same, you know, so it's really tough for them. Graham.
Yes.
North London derby. Where do we begin with this? Spurs, before you even get into it, never even showed up for the first half.
No.
Like invisible. Where was Gareth Wales? Where was he? And even no Aubameyang. Aubameyang sitting on the sideline, sucking his thumb like a spoiled child out in the cold. Apparently from showing up late for the match or something like that.
Yeah.
What was your thinking on the game?
Well, where did we start? Well, when I first seen the starting lineup, I was like, this is an attacking side. We need to go all out. The only thing I'd probably change at starting off, I think Dele Alli needed to start. I think we could have probably dropped in double A and have Højbjerg and Dele Alli in midfield protecting the front three. But well, we knew if the first 10 minutes Arsenal were going to have the ball, that's what was going to happen. And then we created a few chances, but nothing threatening. And then 20 minutes comes around, the son goes off injured. The likely substitution, Dele Alli, brings on Lamela. I was like, for fuck's sake, where do we go from there?
It's the skinny David Luiz hothead, isn't it? Another lunatic. You know what I mean?
It was when he came on, there was no change, there was no attacking play going. Like he's like sticking to the defensive mode again. We get a break. Lamela gets the ball. He scores a nice goal, nice little flick. After that, back to the same old defensive stuff. Let Arsenal have the ball. They get a fluke from nowhere, from a goal that again Lloris should have saved. I was saying to myself, this is kind of the same thing that happened against Palace. Like they scored right at half time. We went in, changed it, went out all attack, killed the game off. Should do the same thing here. Back out second half, same old stuff. Arsenal all over us, threatening stuff. You know, I think they hit the post twice. And then the penalty comes around. Shouldn't have been given. I said it on the preview show. Like a silly penalty or something is going to kill the game.
That's right. You did call it.
It certainly did. People picking up yellow cards, especially Lamela, and then he was warned by the referee, "Don't do it again. You get sent off." What do you do? I think he fucking tried to fucking slap someone in the face for Arsenal, get the red card. Then we kind of hit the panic button. He wants to bring on Dele Alli now, which is too late. It was none of the lads at all were in the game. It was like, I think the man left back off Arsenal, Tierney.
Kieran Tierney.
Yeah, he had a great game. He had Gareth Bale in his pocket all game. Gareth Bale did nothing.
Well, I think when you look at the game, I mean, I've never seen a team with the quality of Spurs being pegged back into their own half for such a long period of
time. Yeah.
I mean, at one stage in that first half, I think they were pegged back for nearly 15, 20 minutes. They couldn't figure out anything, you know. So it's very hard for a player like Gareth Bale to do what he does if he can't even get out of his own half. But I mean, the penalty was a harsh one, I think. I don't know what you guys think. I thought it was a very, very harsh call on that penalty. I mean, he kicked and swiped and missed the ball, and you know the defender came across him. And I mean, if anything, it should have been a free out. You know, what was your Darren? Did you have a look at that? What was your thinking on it?
Yeah, I didn't think it was a penalty either, man. To be honest with you, I did think it was very light. Like, you have to remember, it's a North London derby. Same as if it was a Merseyside derby or if it was a Manchester derby. You don't want to see penalties given for that, man. It's it's farcical, really. But I have to say, I think I may have celebrated just as much seeing Lamela get Walker this weekend as I did for United winning, because you're an absolute little gutter rat. He could join that El Hadj Diouf and that Suarez that used to play for you boys. So I'm delighted he got a few steps out, I have to tell you, after he stitched up Martial at Old Trafford. But these performances happen under Mourinho. They happen at United as well.
Yeah.
These performances that are just nothing performances, where there's no strategy, there's no tactics. For a guy that calls himself a tactical genius, his teams can be unbelievably inept at times. And we, like, United fans, are absolutely delighted when he left in the end. I wasn't a fan of his coming in. I just didn't think his style was going to suit United. And I thought when he went, it was like happy days. Anything is better than that. And I'd say Spurs fans won't be far away from that pretty soon as well.
Well, I think in fairness to Jose, in fairness and defensible, he was up on the sideline and he was coaching players. He was pretty animated, when they were pegged back in. And it was like as if there was a total misunderstanding between tactically what he wanted to do and tactically what was happening on the pitch. Now, that could be hats off to Arsenal for tactically outdoing them, if you like, you know what I mean? But he was trying to make subtle little changes there and all, and the lads just haven't got a clue what's going on. Michael Oliver, he's normally, I would regard as a very, very good referee.
Yeah.
He turned around and he refused to take another look at it with VAR to be overruled, because he said he had a perfect sighting of the incident for the penalty. When you look back at where the ref was, he's basically looking at the two boys' backs. He wouldn't have even seen Lacazette's leg or the ball or what the defender did. So it's very, very weird to not even bother wanting to go and even, have a pitch side look from both angles and go and see that, actually it was Lacazette who actually put the leg right across the defender, really, more than anything. You know what I mean? So what was you thinking on that?
Yeah, that's happened a few times. There's been a few really questionable decisions where the referee hasn't gone for a second look at the VAR screen. And then replays would show exactly the opposite of what he's seen. You know what I mean? There's been times where that's happened. If in doubt, just go over and have a look. If he was obviously being told in his ear, does he want to go have a look? Because even they had a doubt that of what the decision should have been. And then he just chose to overrule that and then just, you know what I mean? I don't understand why he didn't just go over and have a look at the proper slow replays, close-ups, and then make your decision there rather than making the rash decision there and then.
Well, he's normally a very high-level referee.
He is.
I mean, he's a European referee and everything and all,
Yeah.
But do you know what I found strange? If Stockley Park are into your ear saying, do you want to go take a look at it? Obviously, they think that there's something a bit iffy about it. And maybe it was just, his demeanour or brash saying, I don't need to look at this. I've seen this. I know what it was, that kind of way. But inevitably, it was the goal that decided the game. It was a strange one as well, Craig. I don't know if you watched it, but I mean, Spurs seemed to be a far better team when they went down to 10 men. Seemed to be producing a lot more.
You did.
Do you think that's down to Jose, or do you think that's down to the players themselves just saying, look, we need to step up ourselves here and just kind of get their act together here, you know what I mean?
Well, there was so much on the line yesterday. I mean, you were looking at a potential top four there. They'd be right bang in the mix if they had got a win. I mean, I don't know how much a win does for Arsenal, really, because Arsenal could go out this weekend and get beaten by whoever. You know what I mean? That's the way they are. But for Spurs were showing signs of really, really good football. Bale was back to form. I thought Bale would have had a huge influence on the game, and I'm sure Spurs fans must have been rubbing their hands when they seen Aubameyang sitting in the stand. And also Arteta coming out before the game saying it was a disciplinary thing. I mean, basically throwing him under the bus, you know what I mean? It's a disciplinary thing, but we're not going to get into it because it's behind closed doors, but it is a disciplinary thing. So he basically was telling you the lads in trouble. It was
it's
just,
not.
Go ahead, Graham.
It's not just that. It was the London derby and all that, but it was the way other results are on the weekend kind of went in our favour. So if we would have won yesterday, we would have been right up there with them, with Everton losing, whether it's, United beating West Ham as well. I know United are second, but they're going to get top 2 or top 3 anyway. So it's just teams around us who are dropping points. But if we're dropping points as well, it makes no sense. It makes no difference, really.
Well, between myself and Craig here, we're the two Liverpool fans. So every time a door or results go for us, it makes perfect sense that we don't go kick that door in.
It'll be a revolving door, unfortunately.
You know what I mean? We keep it going in that door and back out. This season of all seasons, it's made perfect sense not to take advantage of results going your way.
But that's it. Yeah, we needed to.
Yeah, then over to the boys. Man United 1, West Ham 0. What a terrible performance by both teams, even by West Ham. Very, very flat. Mikel Antonio looked like it was the last place he wanted to be. Bruno, very lackluster, very uninterested. Then United pop up with a goal that goes in off Craig Dawson's head, and Scott McTominay celebrating like he just won the Champions League. So, Darren, what was your feeling on this?
Yeah, it wasn't a great performance, man. I don't think anyone stood out for United and had a great game. I thought the back four were relatively solid, limited West Ham to very little going forward. But again, going forward and in the final third of the pitch, we looked toothless, I thought Greenwood looked okay. He was unlucky, hit the post a couple of times. James, the work rate is decent, but for me, the quality's not there. He could toddle off somewhere like Newcastle and look like a player, but he's not a Man United player. Bruno again didn't have a great game. Fred doesn't really give us a lot going forward. He's our kind of Makelele. He just sits in front of the back four and screens a little bit. So it was poor. I know they're missing, and Rashford had a bad game again, coming off the injury the other night, but he's missing lads. You're missing Pogba, you're missing Donny, you're missing Martial, you're missing Cavani. So he is missing a couple of boys. So for me, the most important thing was to get 3 points and get back into second place and try and pull away from the guys in 4th, 5th and 6th to make sure that we kind of cement that Champions League spot. Because for me, that's going to be massive going into the summer with money on the table, and hopefully we can improve the squad and get a bit closer next year,
Yeah, it was a huge 3 points, even though the result was much bigger than the game in reality. Anthony, especially coming off like a poor result on Thursday, I never seen United to misfire as much and also be slightly dominated by a very young Milan side that were missing players. I'm still trying to figure out how Maguire missed that chance, and even Dan James, I think, missed a very, very good chance as well that ended up screwing into the stand or something like that. Anthony, what are you feeling on the moment? Looks very flat United at the minute, doesn't it?
Yeah, man. It's like I said last time, Niall, it seems to be a recurring thing where we have the same conversation about Man United with our flat. I don't know if I'm the unlucky charm to come on after United have a really shit performance. You know what I mean? But it seems to be nearly the same conversation that I have with you every time. That they're like, you talk about Bruno being the main man there, but when he looks so disinterested, the team just collapses. And then when you're relying on players like Shaw to have the best game that he could have, maybe Rashi, I don't know, but he just seems to want to dribble past everyone going in the league, and he still can't shoot. You know what I mean? But just there's no creativity. There's no danger attacking that's scoring goals. They're scraping 1-0 wins here and there, and then they're conceding goals in the last minute, which isn't the first time that's happened this season or the last 2 seasons. It's they get too complacent when they go ahead and they think, right, maybe we can see this out. But when you're relying on an own goal, and then, like you said, Scott McTominay celebrating like he won the Champions League, the ball wasn't even anywhere near him, to be honest with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
unlike AEW wrestling, you wouldn't be throwing your first quarter earnings on any team at the moment.
No chance.
Taking top 4 because there's such a flip flop there at the moment.
Yeah.
Of course, who are head and shoulders above everyone else this year.
Yeah.
Let's quickly move on to the European scene at the moment. Obviously, Man City are playing Gladbach. They're 2-0 up. You would expect them at home now, or maybe it's not at home, maybe it's at a neutral ground. I'm not too sure, to coast through it. Craig, what you're thinking on that? They should qualify. Though.
I can't see anything but a qualification one way or another, unless it's in Budapest. Might give us a bit of luck. But I don't think Gladbach. They're not. No offense to them, they have good quality individual players, but they're not Bayern Munich or the Dortmund quality, as in the claw and maybe stay in the tie. Can't really see it myself. I think City, if they feel a bit of presence from Gladbach, then they'll step up a gear if needed, and just put them away.
Well, you'd expect City to score, which means Gladbach would need 4.
And Aguero obviously coming off the back of a goal, even though it was a penalty, a goal for Aguero, like he smells blood. He's that kind of player, his instinct, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Then up Real Madrid versus Atalanta, they're 1-0 up. That's a tight enough event, but you would expect Real at home.
I'm unsure about that one, to be honest with you. And I'm not usually on another season. You'd probably say Real, but Atlanta are very dangerous and very well respected within Serie A. They score for fun. They're a very good side, and I could see them getting a goal at the Bernabeu. Madrid, I think, are having problems at the minute. I think Hazard's been ruled out again.
Yeah, he's missing.
Yeah. Ruled out again. He hasn't had the best season, obviously injuries and whatnot. But Madrid, I think, have a few players, coming and going. And injury-wise, they scraped the 2-1 win, I think, against LJ the weekend. The last minute, I think, was Benzema. Yeah. So Atlanta have nothing to lose. I think they'll go there and go for it. I think that could be interesting.
God, it'd be some week, wouldn't it, if Real crashed out as well? I mean, just looking at it. Obviously, Bayern can just put out the kids by the looks of things.
Which are strong.
they're 4-1 up against Lazio, so you would expect to go through. But I suppose the best fixture of the week will be Chelsea versus Atletico, only 1-0. That's on the knife edge. And when you think about it, Chelsea went out there, they played very well, and they were resolute in defence against Atletico. But Atletico played really poor by their standards as well. But my fear for Chelsea would be recently they've been stuttering a little bit, but getting the job done, sort of 1-0s, 2-1s, maybe even a draws. They're talking about Tuchel still undefeated, but look, let's look at the mix of that.
I question I know it's gone back to the Premier League, just for really quickly, I question his selection for the first time against a Leeds team who leave massive holes everywhere. Should be bags of goals going in one way or the other, but he played Havertz in a false 9, as if to say, Leeds are absolutely no threat whatsoever. And threw Ziyech, Pulisic in, who that forward line, what have they done to be convincing all of them to start together? It baffles me, to be honest with you.
I was very surprised at Pulisic being in, considering the amount of talk that was going around about him potentially wanting away or Chelsea not wanting him anymore. That was a very, very strange one, you know what I mean? But this year, I mean, if we know Suarez likes Stamford Bridge, so if he was to show up now on either Tuesday or Wednesday night, whenever it is, he could really put them to the sword, because he was very tame in that first leg, you know what I mean? Now,
and he'll know that, which is the danger.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it'd be a weird one. I mean, then we'd be going into the draw on Friday, which we're going to cover, Craig, as usual, our draw reaction.
Jesus.
Darren, what you're thinking on this? How you see this Champions League shaking up?
I'd be kind of in the same spot as Craig is. I think Madrid could be in trouble going into this week.
Yeah, I agree.
I watched a little bit of yesterday's game. They were absolutely shocking. Benzema popped up with 2 goals and they managed to get over the line. They're not a great side this year at all. I think Atalanta, Pasalic scored a hat-trick the weekend for Atalanta, and they put someone to the sword again. They're a really free-flowing team. And I think it might be a dark horse this week is Atalanta to knock Madrid out. I think Chelsea might be all right. And the only reason I think that is they're solid enough at the back, and Atletico don't tend to score lots of goals. I think Chelsea will nick 1, which again probably means Atletico need 3, and I don't see it happening.
Although I suppose, Suarez is Suarez the top goal scorer at the moment in the league.
Messi's just ahead of him only in the last week. Only in the last week.
But even the totals aren't great though; they're quite low.
Yeah, it's not.
Especially for Messi.
14, 15. Yeah. It's not like what it should be at any. Yeah.
Well, it's not like we've been spoiled over the last few years with Messi and Ronaldo back at 40 and 50 in a season
already.
Those days are gone, my friend. Those days are gone.
The next 40 or 50 goal man in the league might be Haaland, maybe.
So I suppose if Real were to crash out and Chelsea or Atletico, one of them is going to go. Surely that opens the door, Craig, for Liverpool to take number 7. No.
There's two teams. There's 2 teams I don't want. I'm never going to ever write us off ever. Like the 2005 final has shown me never ever say never. But look at here, we're in the competition. I'm always going to believe. There's 2 teams. If you said to me now, who do you not want? It's Bayern and PSG. Straight off the bat. I don't want to deal with either of them. At this stage, I'd like maybe them to get each other. Maybe you throw City in there as well. But if Real Madrid got through, I think we'd take them out, considering their condition they're in. I wouldn't be worried about them.
I nearly faced Bayern or PSG in the quarterfinals than have to face them in a semi or a final.
Yeah.
I just think to give us, what would be very difficult over 2 legs in the current situation. I think them 2 would be, we look further if we can look further down the line. Real Madrid, I agree with Darren there. Like, if they get through, I don't think anyone's going to be too bothered though if they draw them. I think they'd be licking their lips compared to, would you rather that Real Madrid team or would you rather Bayern Munich or PSG or, you know what I mean?
Even Atalanta, yeah. I mean, there's no pressure. Yeah. There's no pressure on them either. Like, I mean, they're just enjoying the run this year.
Darren touched on something really good there, Noel. Pasalic got a hat-trick the weekend, as Darren said. He's not even, the go-to person. They have goals everywhere. The Zapata, Muriel, Gomez had just gone to Sevilla, but Darun, who's actually like a holding midfielder, has a shot in them. They just score like free run, So very dangerous.
So if you're a scout out there at the moment for the top 6 in the Prem, Atalanta this summer is the place to go if you're looking for players.
Or Lazio, Milinkovic-Savic.
So let's drop down just to Clamaz the boys here, and let's have a quick look at the Europa League. We love that Thursday night football. I think Arsenal are going to be okay against Olympiacos. I know Olympiacos got the goal, but I think Arsenal probably have too much. They have enough to see it now, unless there's a major collapse there. And I presume Aubameyang won't show play for this one and he'll be in the team. Graham, I think you'll be okay to go through as well, won't you, Tottenham? You're 2-0 up from the first leg, so I think you should have.
Well, that was the frame of mind. But coming out at the game yesterday, I just don't know. Actually being away to them as well, that's another thing as well. And 2-0 ain't a big enough scoreline to be gone into a second leg. They get an early goal, they'll be chasing the second, and then it's just down to away goals then,
But you've been playing well in Europe, you know what I mean? You've been putting in some good.
We have been, yeah. He's been putting out like a second side in Europe. Like he's been giving the likes of Dele Alli and Vincent and all the rest of them a chance, but.
And the fact that you had that one shin guard in the door of the top 4 and then you took it back out means the Europa League becomes even more important now in reality, because, if you go on the slide now, unless you're going to put a run of 4 or 5 wins together, you're not getting anywhere in that top 4, let's be honest.
But I think if we do get through, the last thing that we want is we probably would get Arsenal in the next rounds, because there is a good chance of. I know Rangers have a home leg. I think they're 1-1. You'd have a tough tie against AC Milan at the San Siro. So there is a good possibility that an English side will get each other, and there is a good possibility that we'll get Arsenal.
Well, everyone at the moment should be trying to avoid Rangers. They're flying.
Yeah, the one to watch.
Back up, man. Right, shout out to Ryan Kent. Absolute baller. What the hell's he doing up there? Come back to Liverpool, will you? So then let's move on to the boys. A very tricky situation on Thursday. There'll be plenty of squeaky bum time, I'd say. 1-1 from the first leg. Terrible goal to give away right at the death. Is the Zlatan show going to be on show this Thursday, or Darren?
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, man. Zlatan was in our run to the final when we won it a couple of years ago. I was actually at the Saint-Étienne game. He scored a hat-trick at home. But if he plays and he really shows up, we could be in trouble, man. He could absolutely batter Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof. I'd much prefer to see Boy play on Thursday. I think he's physical and he'll have no problem going toe-to-toe with Zlatan. I think if Lindelof plays, Zlatan will absolutely bully him. And it'll put an awful lot of pressure on Maguire. And, you know, if they get a couple of runners off the ball, then we could be in big trouble, man. But I do think we'll get there. I think we'll be all right on Thursday night, but only because our away form is so good. You know, I think we'll do them in, thank God. But we'll see.
But I mean, you haven't come up. I mean, if you look at your away form, you haven't really come up against the likes of an AC Milan and the San Siro with Zlatan, have you? I mean, you were talking earlier. I'll put this to Anto, like, you know, Pogba's coming back, Cavani's coming back, De Gea's potentially coming back, but then Milan have Zlatan coming back, and it's like, what are we going to do now? You know,
I think though they've got a little bit of confidence after obviously going to the empty had a couple of weeks ago and getting a good victory against the league leaders, the runaway title contenders, you know. So I think they'll do it on Thursday night, but I do think it'll be tough. And I think if Zlatan shows up, you know, we could be in trouble. But I'm gonna pin me colours to the mast and say we'll do it on Thursday.
Yeah. No, I think I think Milan. You obviously had covered this with the rise of the Milans the other day, but we obviously know Milan anyway are a tough side to come up against in Europe. And like I was saying, as Zlatan, and my Jesus Christ. It's you lose all faith.
you can just imagine them like getting Lindelof and Maguire and wrapping them up like one of those twirly sort of bows or something like that. And then you know, it'll be the Zlatan show again. He's a god. You know what I mean? This is the lad who's given LeBron stick. You know what I mean? He's on a totally different level, this lad. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's definitely a tantalising toy. It's still, the balance is still there, you know. I thought your man Kessie was outstanding. What a player.
He was man of the match. He was man of the match. Ran the show, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, where does he get that engine from? You know what I mean? It's incredible.
Did you see his comments?
Yeah, deadly comments. Yeah.
Quality. Quality, like.
Very,
you know?
good. Very, very good.
Few in the United dressing room could do it looking up that, you know what I mean? Realising how lucky they have it and putting in performances like, you know, really playing for the badge and for the shirt and for the fans. And remember not to not scraping chewing gum off the bleeding lane and Tesco, like, do you know what I mean?
Well, it'll be interesting to see if they listen to the words come Thursday, you know. So let's move on to some of these hot topics, lads. I don't know. I was going to have a chat quickly about Bruno FC. This sort of conversation that goes around that it's the Bruno show. He obviously puts himself out there with his passion and his desire and his want to succeed and win. Comes across as a natural leader and, you know, a powerhouse and a dynamo there in the United team. But I think in recent times that sort of myth has been dispelled, if you like. He hasn't showed up in a few games, or a good few games, at times when United have kind of needed him. And he's also expressed his frustration a number of times. And you can see it in his body language. I've mentioned on a couple of episodes here now, he looks really tired and worn out, like he's been carrying that can all season. Anthony, what you're thinking on him at the moment? He looks shattered.
Yeah, it's obviously not. It's not good to say. Like, you obviously want him to have a rest, but when you can't bring somebody in that has his leadership, that has his passing range, has his vision, like you obviously see it when he comes off as a sub, the team just collapses. You know what I mean? So it's like we're saying, you don't want to just be the Bruno show. You don't want it to be a Bruno FC. You want it to be a whole team. But unfortunately, the whole team isn't on his level. You know what I mean? When it's not nice to have that in your squad. Like, you obviously have it about Barca teams. Ronaldo has been at. It's only them. It's a one-man team basically, which it can be. Like, it's not the best way to go. But they give him a rest. But who do you bring in? Like, there's lads injured. We don't play Donny. You know what I mean? Well, there's just no other quality to bring in that matches him, that lives the squad.
Well, I think if you go down through all the great United sides in the last, say, 15, 20 years, they've always had that kind of, you know, leader, dynamo there in the middle. I mean, you think of Roy Keane, you know, pushing the team forward all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they've always had a player in there, you know what I mean, that's somewhere in the squad, you know, that's that dynamo that pushes people on to play even above what they're capable of doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it seems for him, with those other great United sides, there's always been a certain amount of quality there. Like when Keane was there, he had Scholes, you know, Beckham was there, Giggs, you know, Neville at the back, Rio, you know, Schmeichel, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Like he's
a good spine.
They always have great players around him, but when you look at Bruno at the moment, you know, he's fading into Martial, which is, you know, shocking at best.
Yeah.
Greenwood still looks like he's trying to find his feet. I think he will come good, but I think he's still trying to find himself in terms of where he fits into that whole balance of play, really. Rashford, he's another one I think who just looks really, really tired and worn out. And I believe he's carrying injuries as well. He's need due for a surgery at the end.
And his shoulder.
Yeah.
One of his shoulders, yeah.
So he's obviously not 100%, you know what I mean? And you can see, like, even the chances he got against West Ham and all, you can see, like, another forward would be banging them away, you know, prolific, you know. And then, as we already spoke about Dan James, we like, he's not really at that level. I mean, he's bags and bags of pace, but then clueless kind of when it gets there. So yeah, it's difficult for Bruno because he is taking the weight on the shoulders, and he feels even when he picks up the ball that he has to move forward, and he has to be the one to not only create but nearly finish. And that's not a good place for United to be at all. You know what I mean? And I mean, obviously we've seen McTominay has stepped up a lot, and he really is developing into a really, really good player for United. But again, disciplinary wise, he needs to be really, really careful because I think he wants to present himself at the moment as being that hard lad, that right Kane hard lad at the moment, and giving guff to refs and, you know, going in on guys. And, you know, he needs to be really careful about that and let his play do the talking because his play is really, really good at the moment, you know. So yeah, it's kind of, I just wanted to run it by you guys and just say, what are you thinking at the moment? Because it's always put out there, it's Bruno FC and, you know, Manchester United and all this kind of thing. Clearly, I would say it's nothing like that at all. I mean, I just think it's
Can I show a quick question to the lads, Noel? If it's
absolutely,
all right?
Craig. Yeah, fire away.
Darren and obviously Anthony, do you think like Anthony Martial has to take some mistake? I don't think he's done enough looking in. You know, Man United is number 9, and I just think he's been so inconsistent over a period of time that's just gone beyond belief. That's me looking in. I could be wrong, but your Man United striker, you know, you have to be getting 1 and 2 or 1 and 3 or at least. But for me, is he bothered or not? You don't know with his body language. And then coming back to Bruno probably feels that, I don't know what I'm going to get out of him. Is he going to make a run, or is he interested, or, you know? So Bruno becomes so isolated, and so I don't mind his frustration. I like that he actually cares, and he's a bit, you know, this isn't ridiculous, like, but especially with Martial, I don't know what he brings or what he gives or what he's, you know.
The lack of movement from the front three, not just Martial, is absolutely horrific. We got the ball last night in just approaching the final third of the pitch, and any time Bruno had the ball or maybe McTominay had the ball, they looked forward and they saw 3 static figures, Greenwood, James and Rashford, standing with their backs to goal. Now, none of those lads are guys that can receive the ball with their back to goal. They're not good enough to hold it up and bring lads into play.
Like
we need to be getting balls down the channels, and we need to be getting guys turned where you can take advantage of the likes of James's pace and Rashford's pace. But even at that, like, for me, with the Bruno argument, you know, he does look like a guy that's carrying the weight of the world. He knows going out on a Saturday or a Sunday, I have to be Ryder Rovers today, because if I'm not Ryder Rovers, we drop down this table like a stone. If Pogba's there, maybe he gives him a dig out, maybe Pogba plays with McTominay and Fred, give Bruno, you know, again, get your legs back, kid, whatever. But at the minute, we don't have that option. But Martial, I think his days are numbered at United. He's not a left winger because he doesn't do enough. He's not a striker because he can't score enough. And I think guys like that are going to have to be cut if we want to be a little more clinical and actually go for a title next season. Like, Rashford needs to up his game. I think, like Noel said, I think Greenwood's going to be amazing. But
he already has some level of finishing for his age on both feet. You can see that.
Yeah, already. Like Solskjaer will tell you he's the best finisher at the club. You know, which for a guy his age is scary. If you're telling me Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford aren't as good of finishers as him, like, we're in trouble, lads. That's a French and an English international, and we're saying, you know what, actually, it's this kid we want to stick our, you know, put our hopes on. I think his days are numbered at United. I think they'll keep Rashford because his work ethic is a little better. And he'll probably come in from the left-hand side on that right peg. But I think next season we'll see very, very little of Anthony Martial, if we see him at all. Because I do think we're going to see a lot of swaps and, you know, a lot of bartering and trading this summer, obviously with the financial things. And if United go for Haaland, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see them try and get Martial as part of the deal to go to Dortmund.
Yeah,
And with Cavani going as well, the Boca Juniors as well, so we have even less options.
Well, I don't think that's not a done deal yet, is it? I know.
I don't think so. Yeah,
I've seen there's rumours already. He has said he wants to go back. I heard the lads talking about it on Sky the other day. They were making 2 points. Obviously, if you want to go for Haaland, can you afford to pay Edison Cavani 100 or 150k a week to sit on the bench? Do you need that for Haaland's wages, or do you say, well, you know what? If that happens to him, who do we bring in?
Yeah,
you know, because then if you start playing Rashford through the middle again, you got to get someone to fill the left-sided gap, and then, you know, it unbalances the side completely. And again, for me, Rashford's not annoying. He's a little bit closer to an 11 than he is annoying, but he's definitely not annoying.
Play off a centre forward nearly, like off the.
I think so. I think he could pick it up in areas 18, 20 yards from goal, look for little balls. That's where he could do his best work. Like when he strikes the ball pure, he's an absolutely super striker of the ball. But I think a lot of it is rushed. He's got the head down, like Niall said earlier. He's just running at lads. And you're thinking, oh, is this a roundabout? How many times do you want to go round this bloke? You know, he needs to be more direct, get the ball out of his feet, and actually look for some end product rather than just, you know, I went buying 5 times, Gaffer. Yeah, all right, Mark, you didn't get the ball in the box once though, you know.
Yeah.
It's been a trend this year in the Premiership, isn't it? A lot of those front men in a lot of teams this year, I don't understand it. They don't want to take the ball first time or have a crack, or, you know,
we've seen it firsthand.
Up the ball. Oh, we know firsthand. But it's like everyone's trying to walk the ball into the net rather than having a go. You know what I mean? It's very, very strange. But I mean, it remains to be seen. I mean, there'll be big changes, I think, at United in the summer anyway. And I mean, this will be the measure. I mean, there's rumours Solskjaer's going around, he's getting a new contract and all that kind of stuff. That'll be an interesting move if it happens. And obviously, then he'll have to sort of go out there and say, right, decisions have to be made, Martial out the door, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Because I suppose, Darren, to pick up on your point, I mean, top teams at the moment that are challenging on 3 or 4 fronts, it's not unusual to have players on your bench that are 150 or 200 grand a week, you know what I mean? In order to be able to be, I mean, look at City. I mean, City must have the guts of $1 million in wages sitting on their bench every week here, you know what I mean? So yeah, we move on. There the other day, Joe Fagan, if he had been alive, would have turned 100 years old the other day. We're going to do an episode on him this week, probably for dropping next week, where we're going to have a look at his career at Liverpool and the impact he had on Shankly and Bob Paisley and the boot room and how influential it was. But the man came in, and in his first season, won the treble with Liverpool. So I mean, kind of, if you come in your first season and you do that, where else can you go? Really, you know what I mean? But yeah, we'll take a look at him during the week, and we'll post an episode in the next week or two, you know, absolutely to mark the man's 100, you know. Let's have a quick chat about the relegation battle, lads. I would say that Sheffield and West Brom are done and dusted. I would say the way Burnley and Brighton are playing at the moment, I think they're playing better football and they probably will be okay. My concern at the moment would be either Fulham, Newcastle and Southampton. Southampton look to be a little bit off the boil now and they're sliding down the table. But my biggest fear, I would think, to take that third spot would be Newcastle. I just don't know where they're going to get the quality from. They don't seem to be able to put the ball in the back of the net. They don't even seem to be able to defend. And you kind of feel for Brucey at the moment, you know what I mean? Because it's just, for him, you know, it's very frustrating times. Not dissimilar to most Newcastle managers when they go up there anyway. They rarely get the support that they need in order to, you know, and then they've got a fan base that still lives in the Keegan era, really, where they think they're challenging for the league and the top 4 and all this kind of thing. There's no reality there, really. What do you think? And start with you, Anthony. Who do you think is going to fill that third spot if you assume West Brom and Sheffield are down?
Yeah, no, it's obviously gone, but not obviously, but it maybe will possibly be either Newcastle or Southampton. I'm going to go with Southampton just because I think Newcastle might pull it out of the bag again with a bit of a great escape, maybe. Bit of a Houdini act going, probably. I don't know, but I think Newcastle will go down with Southampton. Sorry, with West Brom and Sheffield United. Yeah,
that's a huge call, Southampton. I mean, they had been playing up to recent times some really, really nice football. Started so now. Craig, what's your thinking at it at the moment?
It's a real hard one. I appreciate, as one of the lads touched on Fulham earlier, play good football. You appreciate that. Imagine being in a relegation battle and still going out to play the right way or trying to play football. I really worry. I think Niall just said it spot on. I really worry for Newcastle. I really do. Callum Wilson, I think, is out for the rest. He could be out 6 to 8 weeks. And he's up there on his own anyway when they're playing. They rely on him to try and get goals. They can't defend. They play a back five and it doesn't even help them. I seen that incident with Matt Ritchie, I think it was last week, having a spat on the pitch, on the training pitch, and then he's on the bench. And it's Newcastle, as you said, like massive club. Southampton, I think, will be okay. A bit of experience, have goal scorers, have a bit of steel when necessary. Brighton look like they're playing again and getting results to match it. Fulham, I think, they'll be okay with lower teams picking up points because they can play ball, they have chances, they can score. But Newcastle, I think, is sadly, it kills me to say it because same situation with Leeds, massive club, massive support. But I do think Newcastle might be the one sadly to slip in. I think Burnley's going to somehow pull it out of the bag and get away with it again at the right time.
Yeah, well,
Burnley always do.
They're coming back to form, But
right when it matters.
The Matt Ritchie thing was weird as well. I mean, where's he coming from? That chap's done nothing all season. Where's he?
His opinion isn't valid even. You know what I mean? Get out of that like this.
No, it's like going to the under 21s and asking a guy what does he think, and you're in the relegation battle. You know what I mean? Like, cop on, like. Darren, what's your thinking?
I think it's going to be close. I think it could even come down to goal difference, lads. Because there's 3 or 4 teams there that could get pulled in. I think Southampton will probably just have enough. Players-wise, maybe not, but I think Hasselhoff, I actually like him as a gaffer. I think he's all right, and I think they'll be all right. Probably with yourself and Craig, I think Newcastle could be the danger of going down here. I think Parker's done a great job with Fulham. They play some good football. He's brought in some good players and stuff like that. And I think if Fulham go down, they'd be mad to get rid of him because I think another year of building there, I think they could bounce straight back up and he'd have a little bit of experience then at the coming into the league again. Fulham didn't pick up points early enough in the season for me, which is what their problem was, which is now why they're But again, in a year or two's time, if they had to go drop down and come back up, would they know things? Where things be a bit different? I think they would, and I think they'll keep Parker, and I think Newcastle might end up playing in the Championship next year.
I think in the first 10 or 12 games, Fulham really struggled, and fair play to them. They stuck with Scotty Parker as well. I mean, he was like basically turning the handle on the door to leave, basically. You know what I mean? And then I think they put together a string of maybe 2 wins on the draw or something like that, and all of a sudden, the board perked up and go, we might be all right. Hang on a minute, let's not change things here. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't mind if Fulham stayed in division. I would like to see Southampton go down. So as you said, I do like Hasselhoff. I think he adds to the Premiership. Graham.
Yep.
What's your thinking?
I was just looking at the fixtures there, and I think it's Newcastle do have it up against the wall to do. I know that in the last 3 games of the season, I think the last 4 games of the season, Fulham have to play them all. They have to play Burnley. They have to play. Who else? They have to play Burnley. Sorry. They have to play Burnley. Well, all the relegation teams anyway.
Probably a handy 3 points away at Spurs or something like that.
Probably would be. But I was just looking at Fulham's fixtures, and they still have to play the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, and United, but they are playing. I think the main game is the last game of the season against. They're at home to Newcastle, so I think that's going to be one of them Super Sunday relegation games. Where the table shows up and goes, oh, they're winning, and they're drawing. Tipping point, like tipping point kind of thing. I think it's going to be Newcastle. I think. Steve Bruce has his time in the Premier League, and I think his time is up. He doesn't have it anymore, I don't think.
Well, I don't think it's Bruce, in fairness to Brucey. I think it's more Newcastle and Mike Ashley and the structure of the club, really. I mean, the club is, many times that they tried to sell this club in the last 5 to 6 years, and I mean, that guy just needs to give it up at this stage, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I thought they were doing well when they bought Callum Wilson from Bournemouth. I thought he was going to do it for him, but obviously he's struggling there. He needs to find a new club.
Yeah, but even when you look at the signings that they made, I mean, it's not actually.
Jeff Hendrick, Matt Ritchie, Ryan Fraser.
It's not a
like,
statement.
no
of
offense,
intent,
like
really,
Jesus, like.
No.
It's not even a mid-table statement of intent, really. You know what I mean? It's like, let's get in a few guys, keep Brucey happy somewhat, and let's spend as minimal as possible. You know what I mean?
I would love to know who makes the signings at Newcastle, because there looks like there's absolutely no direction when they're signing a player. You know, do they buy young? You know, do they try and create players? Do they bring experience in? It's literally just, we'll take what's on the table. End
Yeah,
of.
feels like, yeah.
And that's what's putting them in the shite they're in at the minute. And you know, Sports Direct, he needs to step out of the building, man. He's ruining a really good club with an amazing fan base. Like, it's religion up there.
Yeah, and they deserve more, in fairness. They do deserve
100%.
more because they're so loyal, you know what I mean? But I mean, the signings remind me of, you know, when it gets to 10:30 on deadline day in the evening, and you're looking around to see what's left over, and it's going, just tell us you had a medical, pending a medical, it's all good. We'll just pick up whatever's left over to bring in and freshen up a bit. But as you said, there's no structure, no direction, nothing to the signings. You can't see even where a goal comes from at times. You know, your man Sam Maximin, you know, has started out with a couple of little sort of nice performances and then has flattered to the sea, went off. I think he got injured, and then I'm not sure. I think he got COVID. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he had
COVID. He got COVID and was out for nearly 10 weeks with it.
Yeah, but he's come back, and he looks like he's so, again, lethargic, worn out, no energy. He's a shadow of the Sam Maximin before that. You know what I mean? So
Joe Linton signed from Hoffenheim.
Yeah.
You know, in the Bundesliga, it wasn't outstanding. It wasn't like, you know, I can't believe they got him. It's like the kind of, like Darren touched on, who's left to kind of gather around and who's available and who wants to move, and we'll take
and they paid big bucks for Joe Linton, man.
And he's not like a number. No, he's not, like, you know what I mean? You can see it yourselves. He's Jesus, like, plays him on the wing, plays him centre mid, plays him off the front, plays him up front.
He's trying to fit him in somewhere, obviously, to keep someone above him happy, you know. I paid 30 million for that lad. Get him a game there, will you? He's no use, though. What do you want me to do? I'm playing with 10 men.
Let's call a spade here. He's not a Premiership player. Let's be honest. And they got the wool pulled over him, you know. Let's move on. A quick forward one here I want to throw out there. Obviously, we spoke earlier about Barca and Juve crashing out of the Champions League. Anthony, I'll start with you. Ronaldo and Messi, are we done and dusted, or what do you reckon?
It's the end of an era, isn't it? It really is. Think like they're not young. They obviously don't seem to have the aura about them to inspire teams, because the players that are around them are all just as old, if not older. They're in aging teams. You know what I mean? Their influence is what I'm saying is petering out. You know what I mean? It's not as big as it was 3, 4, 5 years ago, say. But yeah, no, I'd say it's coming to an end, all right. Yeah, it's coming to an end.
Mother time is catching up on these boys, so they really can't be hanging around really for a rebuild job, because you know yourself, when you're rebuilding a team, it can take 2-3 years. You know, at that stage, those boys possibly could be in their 40s nearly. I'd imagine.
Yeah,
you know
when you're absolute workhorses like those two lads for all of your career, towards the end of your career, you just don't have them performances in you anymore. Like, yeah, they might still go out and bang the goals in, but it's their influence for the older guys that are around them, you know, and maybe the younger guys don't even feel that kind of influence to be, oh, lovely, here's Ronaldo playing with me, like, you know what I mean? Maybe they just get, they shit themselves, you know, they get nervous.
Well, you see, it's an interesting conundrum, because we did an episode the other day. We're doing a Premier League Legend series, and we did an episode the other day on Didier Drogba. And the one thing we said about Drogba is not only was he a goal machine, but he scored such important goals at important times. And it looks like the likes of Ronaldo and Messi at the moment, they don't have that anymore. They can obviously go to Levante and bang in a hat-trick, or Mallorca, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? But they don't seem to be able to show up, like when it's a PSG or a Bayern Munich or whoever it is. I mean, Juve crashed out with Porto, and this is no disrespect to Porto at all, who are a very good side. But I mean, you look at Porto there. I mean, Juve should have enough in the bag to put them away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just so poor. You see Messi there the other night, when you need him to bang in that penalty to really up the ante in that thing, you know, it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So that would be my concern about them. Darren, what's your concern?
I think the lads are in the twilight of their career. You know, the curtains are coming down on them. I think they've done things differently. I think, you know, Messi's the boy who loves football, and he wants to just play and play and play. Whereas I think Ronaldo's an absolute narcissist. He completely planned that Juve move because he knew he could go to Juve and still bang in goals and still add to the tally. And I've absolutely no doubt his next move will be America, because again, he can make himself look good. He'll bang in 20, 30 goals over there, you know, do the celebration, they'll have another statue of him, and he'll, you know, because he's everything about himself, God bless him, Ronaldo. And that's, you know, as much as we love him, you know, as United fans, he was amazing for us. But he's, you know, he's really clinical in his thought process for me. I think Messi, I think Messi will end up staying at Barca for his whole career. I think he'll hang on there, and I think he'll pull the curtain down in a year or two's time, maybe. You know, but we won't see. I don't think we'll ever see a tandem like them, a duo, to go against each other the way they have for the last, you know, 20 years. But they've been amazing, man. Yeah, really have.
You would think he'd probably be a model Ronaldo to go to the French league, maybe. You know what I mean? Where it's, you know, there'll be bad.
Well, if he goes to France, your problem is if he doesn't play for PSG, you know, he's not going to win titles. Yeah. And do PSG want to add his freight into a deal where they're going to try and hang on to maybe Neymar or Mbappe? Because financial fair play is going to come and bite them soon enough. PSG, I don't think France they'll do it from. I would be absolutely shocked if he doesn't go to the LA Galaxy or somewhere like that and bang in 25 goals a season, and you know, we get the knee slides and the whole shooting match, man.
I think financial fair play to me is a myth and a brown envelope. That's all I'm going to say about it. Like I could say I'm easily going. I think PSG will have to make, like, if Mbappe decides to go or Neymar decides to go, I think PSG would have to make that kind of what we would call a marquee signing, even though it's in the twilight of his career. But it wouldn't feel like the twilight of his career playing for PSG in the French league. You know what I mean? He'd still be a star there, you know. But yeah, it'd be interesting. Craig, what's your thinking?
Yeah, I think it's two completely different sides of the coin, isn't it? Regarding their situations. The two teams that the lad said, Anthony, they're both Asian sides, but now Messi has Laporte in there, the new president, which gives him a bit of leeway to maybe stay on at Barca instead of looking the other way out. I just think they both have to accept now that, like you said, Noel, it's more of a squad role. It's not that you can kind of, you know, pull it out of the bag on European nights. Ronaldo shouldn't have, no offense, Ronaldo shouldn't have to be pulling it out of the bag against Porto alone. You know, no disrespect to Porto, but that tells you, I think, where they're at when they're having zero impact and minimal impact on games. PSG, another situation. What did Messi score? I think he scored a penalty, and then it was like, oh, here we go with a bit of a revolution. Messi will claw back for them. That was it. Penalty, full stop. Darren actually makes a good point there about Messi staying. I think the Laporte situation might even help that, because he's the new president. It's the first time Messi's voted for him, which they might come to a conclusion as in, look, at bask in your glory here for as long as you can. We'll send you off with a statue a lot. Ronaldo, I think, is a completely different story. Could go to the French league if Mbappe goes on a big move, or if they don't hold on to a Neymar, but who's going to be able to afford them as well? You know, Barca maybe, I don't know. Ronaldo, I think, I agree with Darren there. If he can go to the MLS and continue to do it, he will. There's no doubt about it, he will. He loves goals, he loves himself, and the French league is a piss poor quality league, I think, in itself anyway. So he'd probably have a good time over there as well. You know,
I think at that rate he could end up back at Portugal, and if you're fine, that he could go to France.
Lisbon,
he may go back to Sporting and go, do you know what, I'll help them come back and maybe win a title.
Yeah,
that's definitely an avenue as well. Definitely, yeah, I'd say.
Right, let's touch on the last topic. It was announced there the other day, Darren Fletcher. I think it was sporting director or something like that, was it? Or technical?
Yeah, it was a technical director. Technical
director, whatever that is. So he shows up, gets the picture with the crest with whoever does the photography, and he's standing there in the tracksuit. What's the story there? Darren, what was your thoughts on this? To me, it was just, here's a cheap option.
I don't know about that. I like Fletcher. Fletcher's, you know, was very, very good at United. He's a football man. He had his injuries. But I've seen him do, you know, a little bit of the punditry and stuff like that, and he knows what he's talking about. He came into United in January. He's going to be part of the coaching setup initially, and apparently it goes that he struck up the relationship with Solskjaer, and he was mentioning things to Solskjaer about what United need to do going forward, i.e. signing players and stuff like that. And Solskjaer maybe had a word upstairs and said, this guy could do a job for us. He knows what we're looking for as a side, but also as a club, you know, looking to promote youth, looking to create stars rather than necessarily buy them all the time, which is, I think, what's going to happen over the next few years at United, you know. I think he's certainly inexperienced, but I don't think that's always a bad thing. You know, Guardiola was inexperienced when he came into Barca, and look at him now, you know.
Yeah, I was just thinking though, you know, some people talk to me, Anthony, at times about this, you know, promoting the youth. Is the youth situation at United, is it a bit of a myth because on the back of the class of 92 and all this kind of thing, obviously amazing things happened there, but in reality, if you look over the last, say, 15 years, where's the promotion of youth really? I mean, could you count it on one hand really? In terms of success, you know?
Yeah, maybe a hand and a half, I'd say, probably, yeah. I think for Man United, maybe the youth days are gone. I'd say it's about the like we're saying about marquee signings. I don't think. Well, maybe apart from Rashford, Greenwood, I don't think they'll promote a lot of youth players anymore. I just can't see it happening. But Fletcher might though. Like, Fletcher was always a player that played for the short, and not, he was a very influential player. You know what I mean? Like he rallied everyone around the team. Like got their no, come on, let's go. So he'll know the talent that they're looking for. If it's in the youth, maybe one or two. You know, get them up to the bench, get them 5 minutes in the Europa League or in a useless Premier League match or the FA Cup or whatever match. But the class 98 days are gone. They're gone completely.
Well, the class of 98
just,
days was
92.
Just on that one, if you look at the amount of ex-United youth players that are flaunting around the Premier League now, you'd be surprised. So whether they made an impact for United or whether they made an impact somewhere else, like Dwight McNeil at Burnley, he's ex-United. He was in the United youth setup. You know, Ben Foster, Tom Heaton. Like there's like 15 to 20 players in that Premier League that were at United through the youth. Sam Johnson at West Brom as well. Didn't maybe make it at United, but still were able to create a really good career for themselves. So I don't necessarily think that means the youth isn't working or the system's not working. It just means maybe where, you know, the kind of talent that you get out of it isn't as good as it needs to be. But they've spent massive money in the last couple of years. They just signed the lad. He signed his contract today, Hannibal. He signed his a new improved professional deal. Like he's going to be an absolute phenomenal baller. You've the lad Joe Hugel up front who's scoring goals for fun. You've Kovar, the keeper. Like there's serious players in that United youth squad.
But the reality is more often than not they go elsewhere. They don't go to United, which is really the problem, really, isn't it? I mean, it's all well and good saying that this player goes off to Burnley and he's an absolute baller, but he's at Burnley. It's not much good to United. Like United invest all that money in him and all that in getting him to that point, and then he's out the door. I mean, if you look originally when you go back, remember when Garner was in the side and Chong was coming through and all that little kind of project of youth there that was happening. It didn't really work. You know what I mean? It really didn't work when you think about it.
Garner could end up back in United next season. Solskjaer's a big fan. He's playing well in that championship with Forest. I wouldn't be shocked to see him back at United. I think Chong we won't see. I don't think he'll cut it at all. He's extremely lightweight. He'll end up playing in Holland or somewhere like that. Or Belgium maybe.
Angel Gomez, Darren. I know he went to Portugal, but is that as in he kind of hit the roof and he was no good, or?
Well, like
he's meant to be very highly rated.
He won the player of the tournament at the World Cup, the Under-20s World Cup a few years ago when England won it, and he was a fabulous player. But the Premier League is a much different story than playing in the youth setup. You know, the physicality of it, the pace of it. He's done okay. He's at Lille.
How's he
It was
gone to
Lille
France?
that signed. Lille signed him and they loaned him out to Portugal. So
Oh,
he's on loan in Portugal, but he will go back to Lille, and Lille have a really good reputation with youth as well. And I think he may end up doing something. I don't know if there's some sort of a buyback clause. There might be. I think I know. Like Barca, Madrid do that with a lot of the younger players when they send them out. You know, they put something in the contract to say, well, if he does turn into a golden nugget, we want first dibs on him back and stuff like that. You know.
Yeah, I suppose we'll have to keep an eye on this situation, because it's like, you know, you have Solskjaer there at the moment who, you know, I'm not going to quite disrespect him by saying he's learning on the job, but I mean, you never stop learning on the job anyway. You know what I mean? Yeah. But again, in terms of that real experience to go up against the likes of a Pep or, you know, whoever it is. I know you won there 2 weeks ago, whatever it is, but you know what I really mean in terms of consistency. And then you're putting Fletcher in there as well, whose credentials are, you know, that he was a really good player at the club. He's a decent punter and he has a good eye. But I mean, again, it's another guy in there at that level learning on the job. You know what I mean? And I just got the feeling, you know, I thought, listening to United fans during the week, I thought they were a little bit disheartened at the announcement in terms of they were expecting something a bit more. I think they were originally chasing one of the technical directors in Germany. Is it the lad who's
he's very highly rated. I can't think of his name.
Yeah. Can't remember. I think he's an English lad as well, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah. I just can't remember his name right now, but I know they were hot on him and they were chasing him and trying to price him out of Leipzig, I think it was. And so it'd be interesting to see how that whole situation progresses. I mean, you never know. I mean, it could evolve into something. You get all these United boys around, and, you know, suddenly they hit the ground and something happens and something comes true. But again, if you look at Fletcher's role going in there, you know what I mean. In terms of youth, it still takes an awful long time to bring those players through. You know what I mean. You don't really get those 16, 17-year-olds. You know, the Michael Owens and the Rooneys of this world. That never happens anymore. You just don't see it. You know. But listen, lads, as always, brilliant coming on. Thanks for coming on, as always.
Thanks, Matt.
As always, head over to the Dynamo Podcast Network, smash that subscribe and bell notification button, and as always, support Irish podcasting. This has been your Monday Massive Show. Lads, a pleasure as always, and we will chat to you again real soon.